O inmates of earth and heaven, behold ye my beauty, and my radiance, and my revelation, and my effulgence. By God, the true one, I am trustworthiness and the revelation thereof, and the beauty thereof. I will recompense whoever will cleave unto me, and recognize my rank and station, and hold fast unto my hem. I am the most great ornament of the people of Baha, and the vesture of glory unto all who are in the kingdom of creation. I am the supreme instrument for the prosperity of the world, and the horizon of assurance unto all beings. Thus have we sent down for thee that which will draw men nigh unto the Lord of creation. Baha'u'llah.
So today we're really happy to have Dr. Rhett Diessner, and he'll be talking about the inner beauty of human beings from a Baha'i perspective. Rhett Diessner's parents became Baha'is in Yakima, Washington in 1956 when he was in utero. After earning a doctorate in human development from Harvard University, he taught psychology at Lewis Clark State College for 34 years. He's also taught online as an adjunct faculty member since 2005 for the Baha'i Institute of Higher Education in Iran. His book, Psyche and Eros, Bahá'í Studies in Spiritual Psychology, was published by George Ronald Publishers, and his Understanding the Beauty Appreciation Trait, Empirical Research on Seeking Beauty in All Things by Palgrave Macmillan. His research on appreciation of beauty, natural beauty, artistic beauty, moral beauty, and beautiful ideas has been published in such peer-reviewed journals as Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity in the Arts, Journal of Aesthetic Education, Ecopsychology, Journal of Moral Education, Journal of Bahá'í Studies, and Review of General Psychology. So now I'll hand it off to Dr. Diessner.
So welcome. Wonderful to see all of you here. I hope we're going to have a beautiful time together. Very nice to see my cousin in the crowd. Hi, Cindy. And so I'm hoping to inspire us a little bit about the relationship between beauty and the human being and the religious search. William Grant Still was inspired by this idea that the afterlife is beautiful. And I think this is something shared also in the Baha'i vision of the next life. In fact, Baha'is like to call it the Abha paradise, our next life. And Abha means most glorious. But if you look in any dictionary, you'll see that great beauty is a synonym for glorious. So we're awaiting great beauty in our next adventure after this one. So I think it is self-evident that God must be the most beautiful being. And if that is true, then the most beautiful beings that come to this world must be the universal manifestations of God, which have names like the blessed beauty, the ancient beauty, the glorious beauty, the most great beauty. And Baha'is think these beautiful beings that reflect God are manifestations like Krishna and Buddha, and Moses, and Christ, Muhammad, Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah like to use a mirror metaphor. So the manifestation of God is a perfect mirror. All of God's attributes and beauty are reflected in the perfect mirror of the manifestation of God. We mortals, our soul is also a mirror for God because we're created in God's image, but we don't have a perfect mirror. Ours is a little bit dirty. It has a little dross on it. Here's a passage from the Jewish scriptures. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Baha'is like to refer to Baha'u'llah as the blessed beauty. And one of Baha'u'llah's most famous works is the Hidden Words, which we see illustrated here in the calligraphy of Mishkan Kalam. And Baha'u'llah wrote, "Veiled in my immemorial being and in the ancient eternity of my essence, I knew my love for thee. Therefore I created thee, have engraved on thee mine image, and revealed to thee my beauty." Abdu'l-Baha, who is the son of Baha'u'llah, and do Baha'is consider a very sacred figure in the history of religion, and the leader of the Baha'i faith after the ascension of Baha'u'llah, he wrote, "In the sight of Baha, women are accounted the same as men, and God hath created all humankind in his own image, after his own likeness. That is, men and women alike are the revealer of his names and attributes, and from the spiritual viewpoint, there is no difference between them." However, we run into a bit of a problem because it's not possible for humans to be in God's likeness or image. We know this because Baha'u'llah has repeatedly said so. God in his essence and in his own self hath ever been unseen, inaccessible, and unknowable. He moreover hath never had, nor hath he any peer likeness. Thou hast verily been at all times and will everlastingly continue to remain immensely exalted beyond and above all comparison and likeness, above all imagination of parity or resemblance. Cause us then to acknowledge thee as one who is exalted above every comparison and is wholly beyond all likeness, and will lift up our voices amongst thy servants and cry aloud that he is the one God, the incomparable, the ever-abiding, the most powerful, the all-glorious, the all-wise. So how do we solve this logic problem? We're created in the image of God, but God can have no likeness. Well, one solution to this is that we humans are created in the image of the manifestation of God. So when we think of Krishna, or Buddha, or Christ, or Muhammad, or Baha'u'llah, our soul is created in the image of their soul. But we also want to be cautious thinking about this topic. Baha'u'llah observes that the soul is a sign of God, a heavenly gem whose reality the most learned of men have failed to grasp, and whose mystery no mind, however acute, can ever hope to unravel. With this cautionary observation in mind, we'll proceed with care, realizing that any effort we make to discuss the reality of the human soul will necessarily be inadequate and incomplete. Something very interesting about this soul that's created in the image of the manifestation is the soul is simple. In this case, it's a philosophical concept. Simple means there's no elements, there's no parts. Abdu'l-Baha is reputed to have said in Paris, "Scientific philosophy has demonstrated that a simple element, simple meaning not composed, is indestructible, eternal. The soul, not being a composition of elements, is, in character, as a simple element, and therefore cannot cease to exist. The soul, being of that one indivisible substance, can suffer neither disintegration nor destruction. Therefore, there's no reason for it coming to an end." Abdu'l-Baha also is recorded as saying, "Therefore, it is evident that life is the expression of composition, and mortality or death is equivalent to decomposition. As the spirit of man is not composed of material elements, it is not subject to decomposition and therefore has no death. It is self-evident that the human spirit is simple, single, and not composed, in order that it may come to immortality." However, despite the soul being simple and uncomposed, Baha'u'llah, as revealed, Upon the inmost reality of each and every created thing, he hath shed the light of one of his names, and made it a recipient of the glory of his attributes. Upon the reality of man, however, he hath focused the radiance of all his names and attributes, and made it a mirror of his own self. Is the mirror the simple, uncomposed soul? Question mark. I wonder. Are the attributes of the manifestation of God reflected in this mirror of the human soul? Perhaps. The attributes of God, and in this case, the attributes of the manifestations of God, are beautiful. These attributes of the manifestations of God that are reflected in the human mirror may be called the human virtues. In the field of psychology, they're often called character strengths, and they're considered to be moral beauty. So wisdom has moral beauty, love is morally beautiful, justice is morally beautiful, generosity is morally beautiful, courage is morally beautiful. Aristotle considers beauty as an ultimate virtue, the virtue to which all other virtues aim. That is, the purpose, which in Greek Aristotle called the telos, the purpose of the virtues, such as courage and justice, is beauty. The purpose of our attributes are to manifest beauty. I thought we'd take a brief interlude for a beautiful poem by the great Italian poet Giulio Savi, The Swans of the Bodensee. In aura of snow-white beauty, they glide together unruffled on the lake. They look ahead, wreathed in smiles. They keep silence, and in their silence, they say 1,001 words. What do they say? Love and beauty. Whence do they come? From the meadows of love. Where is their home? In a nest of rapture. Where are they going? In search of lovers of the blessed beauty. It appears that our soul and our body interact through the mind. In a letter written on behalf of Shoghi Effendi, by the way, Shoghi Effendi was Baha'u'llah's great-grandson and Abdul Baha's grandson, and he was the head of the Baha'i faith from 1921 to 1957. The Baha'is turned to him for guidance. And Shoghi Effendi said, we have three aspects of our humanness, so to speak: a body, a mind, and an immortal identity, soul or spirit. We believe the mind forms a link between the soul and the body, and the two interact on each other. So this is what I want to emphasize next, is that the body influences the soul, and the soul influences the body through the mind. It is the intermediary. Thus, it may be that the attributes and virtues of God emanate from God to the mirror of the human soul, and are then reflected from the soul to the brain via the mind, and then from brain to behavior. And then there may be a feedback loop from behavior back to the brain, back to the mind, back to the soul. I'm reminding you of that quote from Shoghi Effendi. We believe the mind forms a link between the soul and the body, and the two interact with each other. So I thought we'd take a little look at some of the science of the beauty of the human being. So one of the beautiful attributes of human beings is gratitude. This is something Baha'u'llah has emphasized in many of his tablets, to have gratitude toward God. And this is what gratitude looks like in your brain. If we're using a fMRI, that's functional magnetic resonance imaging, to examine the neural correlates of gratitude. And these researchers determined that the neural firing pattern associated with the virtue of gratitude involved the co-activation of three areas of the brain: superior anterior temporal lobe, mesolimbic region, and the basal forebrain. Compassion and love, mentioned by Baha'u'llah many times, very beautiful attributes of a good human being. And a team of researchers headed by Mary Helen Imbedino Young, also using MRI, investigated the neural firing patterns associated with compassion for those suffering from psychological or physical pain, and examined admiration of virtue. They reported compassion is firing in the posterior-medial cortices, which are involved in self-related consciousness processes. They also found that the anterior insula showed a distinct pattern of firing shared by admiration of virtue and also compassion for psychological suffering. Your brain on fairness or justice. We know justice is the best beloved of all things, as Baha'u'llah revealed in the Hidden Words. And a team of researchers led by Dr. Ball, also using MRI, explored the human natural sense of fairness. And they determined that a particular pattern of neural firing in the orbital and medial sectors of the prefrontal cortex and the superior temporal sulcus region, which are critical for social behavior and perception, play a central role in moral appraisals related to fairness. Trustworthiness. At the beginning of our meeting today, we were read a beautiful passage about trustworthiness by Baha'u'llah. In fact, Baha'u'llah called trustworthiness beautiful. Julia Mattavele and her colleagues used fMRI to investigate neural responses to trustworthiness in the amygdala and face-selective regions in the occipital and temporal lobes. Their results indicated that the brain has a specific pattern of firing when determining someone's trustworthiness. Obviously, brain science is in its infancy. However, the above slides give us a taste of how various virtues may appear when they're dancing within our brain's neurons. And perhaps these neural correlates are a sign of communication from the mirror of the soul through the mind and into the body. Perhaps. The love connection. Many philosophers, including Socrates and Plato, who Baha'u'llah has praised in the Tablet of Wisdom, have stated that the object of all love is beauty. That is, when we love, it is beauty that we love. And when we love virtue, it is moral beauty that we love. And there is some good empirical research findings that support this love and beauty connection. In other words, samples of thousands of people show that, yes, indeed, the more you love, the more you appreciate beauty, and vice versa. People that appreciate beauty love people more. Here's a beautiful prayer. This prayer was written by Rabi'ah, who is the most famous female Muslim mystic. She was a Sufi saint that lived like 1,300 years ago. And her prayer is, "Oh God, if I worship thee in fear of hell, burn me in hell. And if I worship thee in hope of paradise, exclude me from paradise. But if I worship thee for thine own sake, withhold not thine everlasting beauty." So I suppose you people at our meeting today, you've probably thought before, how did people recognize that Muhammad was the prophet of God at the very beginning of his revelation? Or how did people know that Jesus Christ was the Son of God before there were any Bibles or any books or any scriptures? And even we might wonder, how did those early Baha'is become Baha'is? There was, very little transcription of Baha'u'llah's tablets. How is it that this happens? And Baha'u'llah has written, it follows, therefore, that every man hath been and will continue to be able of himself to appreciate the beauty of God, the glorified. Baha'u'llah wrote in his famous book, the Kitab-i-Iqan, the Book of Certitude, Israel remained deprived of recognizing the beauty of Jesus and of beholding the face of God. And Baha'u'llah also wrote, know then that when Muhammad, the point of the Quran, and the light of the all-glorious came, whosoever acknowledged him recognized the signs of God in his inmost being and saw in his beauty the changeless beauty of God. I can remember when I was about 18 years old, and I had some friends that became born-again Christians. And I thought they were so stupid. I thought, my gosh, they now are dedicating their life to this religion, and they haven't even read the Bible. It seemed to me that just seemed really stupid to me. But now looking back, I'm embarrassed about that, because I realize that although reason is a great gift from God, and the Holy Scriptures are a wonderful gift from God, that mostly we recognize a new manifestation of God by their beauty. There's something in our heart that is just attracted to them. So before we start any Q&A, I thought we'd do another 1-minute mindful moment of well-being through beautiful art. On the next slide is some calligraphy from Meshkin Kalam, who was generally considered the greatest Persian calligrapher of the 19th century. And this calligraphy is the name of Baha'u'llah in the form of a rooster. It's owned by Harvard University, and it's in the Fogg Art Museum. I actually saw it there in 1985. Let us mindfully gaze upon it for 1 minute. Let's slow our breathing and completely focus on the visual beauty and the meaning in the art.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. And yeah, I liked the mindfulness meditations throughout as well. Yeah, so if anyone has questions, you can put it in the chat and we'll have some time now. Someone asked, how did Harvard get the calligraphy?
Well, these colonial institutions probably plundered it. Or Harvard, of course, has a bigger endowment than the gross national product of Central American countries, and they like to collect art from all over the world. Very nice, Mrs. Afnan. Yes, there's some calligraphy of the same version. So I imagine that they purchased it, but I don't know where they purchased it from.
I guess a question I had, like you started off by saying, obviously there is a God. I mean, can you kind of expand on that? Like, why is that obvious?
Well, I kind of wanted to go with, if God exists, God must be the most beautiful being. And I tried to claim that was obvious, but actually it's not necessarily so. But you broke it down into two steps. God exists, is that obvious? And if God exists, is it obvious that God must be the most beautiful being? Well, these things are kind of hard to answer with logic. A human brain can't imagine the existence of something if it wasn't created. We don't seem to be able to imagine the uncreated, something that never had a beginning. This could be just because of the way our brains evolved, but it seems, as they say in the American documents, it seems self-evident that God exists because something created the universe. But in terms of logic, that's not a very powerful argument.
The next question is, could you speak on brain elasticity and how the brain can change itself through our interaction with the world?
It's really amazing. I started studying the brain at the University of Oregon, and I wanted to go on into that field of physiological psychology, and I wanted to discover what is it in the brain that makes people smarter or stupider. How come some people seem really, really bright, and most of us are, pretty average, and some people a little dull. I figured that must be something happening in the brain. So I decided when I was about 20 to dedicate my life to finding that out. At which point I found out they didn't even know what a memory is. There's no strong scientific evidence for even what a memory is. So we were nowhere near being able to figure out what makes people intelligent. But since that time, we've discovered that the brain is very elastic. I mean, when I first started studying developmental psychology in the 1970s, we figured most of it was in place by age 5, and after puberty, the party was over. I mean, the famous developmental psychologist Piaget said, yeah, we start hitting formal operations between about 12 and 14, and that's it. But now we know that the brain is elastic our entire life, and that every single encounter we have changes the brain structurally. So like every moment, every passing moment, everything we see, everything we hear is changing our brain structurally. So the brain is a fantastic, elastic, organic machine, constantly changing itself throughout our life. And we now know from a developmental psychology viewpoint that a lot of important brain changes for maturity don't even take place to age 26 or 27. So when us old folks look at 18-year-olds and think, oh my gosh, they're just children, there's a little more truth to that than just being an old person now.
The next question is the brain a tool for the spirit?
Well, that seems to be the case. I mean, that's personally the way I frame it. And in fact, I think this is what we would call a spiritually mature human being, is that they have given their brain to their soul as a servant. And of course, we have to remember that we're a soul that has a body. We're so used to being in our brain that we have a tendency to think that, I have a soul, but that's not true. We are a soul, we have a body. And so I think most of our life purpose is to try to get our soul to train our brain so that our brain is the servant of our soul.
Someone asked, what about the heart, as in Sunny in iRobot, in which Sunny in NS6 robot is given a positronic heart as well as a positronic brain by Alfred Koenig?
Well, I'm not familiar with that story, but we notice that Baha'u'llah talks about the heart frequently, and that's been a bit of a mystery to me, what Baha'u'llah means by the heart. Now, we have obviously a physiological heart, and it's pretty magical, and it tends to do more things than just beat. But on the other hand, the heart I'm thinking is primarily a metaphor for spiritual emotions. We think about the mind, and we tend to start thinking in terms of, logic and rationality. And Baha'u'llah says these are tremendous gifts to humanity, right? No rationality, no progress. But on the other hand, what's actually really important to human being are spiritual emotions. I mean, if you go through your life thinking about what makes your friends happy, what makes your friends fulfilled, what motivates you and your friends to do good deeds, these are spiritual emotions, like the virtues I talked about: compassion, love, generosity, gratitude. These are things of the heart, and they're what make life worth living and meaningful.
Can you talk a bit about how caring for a pet affects the brain?
I have a huge moral dilemma about caring for pets, a huge moral dilemma. I kind of want to say, don't take your animal to the vet until all the kids on the planet have food. But then when I say that, it's like, oh, you're so species centric. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the person that has quit eating cows and pigs and think, if we treated your dog like we treat cows and pigs, you'd call the police. So anyway, my life is full of dilemmas when it comes to caring for pets. I actually love animals and I love pets. And one of the things we find is that pets, the obvious things, pets make us less lonely. Pets have a very positive effect on our well-being. They increase our positive emotional states. On average, pets can be annoying too every day. But on average, they're wonderful. And the research on using pets, like with people with mental problems or like children on the autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. The next question is, as meditation is highly encouraged, but yet no specific mode is mentioned, do you have a favorite method?
Yeah, I've meditated a lot about meditation. Baha'u'llah has that one sentence, it's very powerful. Like, you can't call a person a human if they don't meditate. But it often seems to me that when Baha'u'llah talks about meditation, he's talking about we need to pause and not just be an animal, but be metacognitive. Stop and think about our thinking, think about our goals, think about, like it says in the hidden words, to call ourselves to account each day. I think this kind of meditation is very important for spiritual development. The kind of meditation that's become very popular, well, there's several kinds. The most popular kind now that psychologists use is mindful meditation. I mean, I think 50% of the psychologists in America now use mindfulness to help people lessen their depression and anxiety. And one of the reasons they do this is there's a lot of research to show that it works. So I would definitely, it's a good thing to have in your toolkit. I'm not sure that things like mindful meditation are directly spiritual, but they can be a good part of the spiritual life and can definitely help us get less depressed and less anxious. Do I have a favorite one? I like mind emptying meditation. It's probably the most difficult kind of meditation to do, which is why it's not very popular. In mindful meditation, you're often watching your thoughts as a detached observer. But in empty mind meditation, you're trying to just slow your mind down till there's no thoughts. That can be a wonderful experience. But again, I'm not so sure how spiritual it is. It's very nice psychologically. I guess for Baha'is, right? If our meditation leads us to be of greater service to others, that was spiritual meditation.
Next question is, Piaget and George Herbert Mead see the progression of human personality through stages from infancy to adulthood. Is humanity going through the same stages before it reaches the maturity stage, in particular spiritual?
I once wrote a paper on that in graduate school, specifically comparing the stages of these famous psychologists to Baha'i ideas about the stages of religions. Like, yeah. So yes, I think there's some real parallels there.
Is there any research to show the effects of being vegetarian on the health and the brain?
Well, we probably got to quit eating cheese too. I love cheese. You want to know why you love cheese? I'll tell you why you love cheese. When you eat cheese, it literally goes to the same receptor sites that morphine and heroin go to. It goes straight to your interior opioids and fires them just a little bit. It's obviously not the same as a heroin rush, but you know, it's like our brain pulling us around by the nose. And I love cheese, but I'm trying to go all plant-based. And is it really better for the brain? Well, to be able to do that, we have to do some longitudinal studies, and to really know the science of it, we'd have to randomly assign people to a condition where they live for 10 or 15 years as a plant-based, or 10 or 15 years as a meat eater. And people don't want to volunteer for that kind of random assignment, because either they want to quit eating meat or they want to eat meat. They don't want to get randomly assigned. So we really don't know the answer to this. If we look at it correlationally, we will see that people that eat a plant-based diet are, if they balance their protein, which is really easy to do. I mean, how hard is it to pair a grain with a legume? No sweat. I mean, even the wonderful Persian food, like we talked about, it's so easy to make gourmet sabzi, right? Once you got the beans in there on rice, total protein, happy brain, happy gut biome. So the one thing we know is that if people overindulge in meat or eat processed meat, this is really bad for the brain. This we know. But in moderation, right? If you're holding yourself to like 3 to 7 ounces a day of meat, probably doesn't hurt your brain. It's bad for the planet, but your own personal brain's probably okay.
What about megavitamin therapy?
Try to find some objective scientists to explain taking supplements. Taking supplements is a really stupid idea. There's very little research on them. They can have almost anything in them. Consumer Reports, some of the most neutral, objective scientists, when they examined supplements, they found over 50% of them were either did not have the dosage they said, or did not contain what they said they had. So plus, when we put the word mega in front of something, we're immediately getting away from moderation. This just superficially to me is a super bad idea. I quit taking vitamins because there was a very huge longitudinal study with tens of thousands of people in them that tracked them for 20 to 30 years and found absolutely no health differences between people that took vitamins and those that didn't. So I just quit taking vitamins. Now, 1 year ago, they came out with a very large study showing that taking multivitamins can help prevent dementia. So guess who started taking multivitamins again? So the science, it pulls you this way, it pulls you that way, but it's the best we got.
I think we will end it there. So thank you so much again to Dr. Diessner for this talk and for your answers to our questions. We appreciate it. And our speaker next week will be Masood Olufani, and he'll be speaking about Tell Them We Are Rising, Robert Turner, the first African-American Baha'i. So again, these talks are every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And I put the link to our mailing list and our YouTube channel in the chat. And we'll go ahead and end today with a Baha'i prayer.
O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they're all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty, and all are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, confers life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree, and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family, and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.